Folks, here we are. I'm back again for another episode of the Soul Sessions. As is me, your host Soul, but with me, he is the American Psycho, Chip Skyler. Welcome to the show, Chip.
Thank you, man. How's it going?
Oh, very well. Hey, to have a champion and yourself coming on the show is a pleasure. But
Thank you. Thank you.
Chip, for our fans who might not be familiar with yourself, please tell us your history. How did you initially get into the world of professional wrestling?
Well, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I'm sure you've heard that many times. It's a lot where it starts. Um, and then actually, I looked into finally training and stuff. Actually, let me take a step back. I actually wanted to get into sports commentary and stuff like that. I've always loved wrestling, and my dream was to be, like a commentator for WWE. Um, and so I was like, well, looking more into it, it seems like it's not really about the experience. It's about who you know. So I was like, dang, well, I got to get connections. And so then I was like, well, let me look at wrestling schools because, I don't know how to connect with someone unless, I'm at a school with trainers. And then, come to find out Cody Rhodes' school, the Nightmare Factory, was 50 minutes away from my house. So I was like, you know what, let's do this. So I signed up, got accepted into it. And I did the training, and I was initially there not to be a wrestler, like I said, but to get connections and stuff. So I tried to create this relationship with Cody and QT and Glacier. Went very well. Um, but as I was training, I realized, dang, I might actually want to be a wrestler because I really like this stuff. Because I didn't see myself. I mean, I'm only 5'8". I weigh 170 pounds, and you see pro wrestlers, and they're big guys. So it was almost like a shattered dream to even begin with. I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna make it. Like, look at me. I'm too small to do this. But I started to do it. And Cody, especially with my character, he's like, I really see something in you. So obviously hitting that right off the bat got me, very motivated and started and stuff like that. So I got the training. I actually tore my ACL during the training.
Oof.
So I didn't do the full completion. And I was like, maybe it's a sign from God that I should stick to the commentary thing. And so, I did the commentary for our showcase, and it went well. And I was like, all right, well, let me try and get on promotions to do, commentary or announcing and stuff like that. It's actually 10 times harder to get on shows doing that versus actually wrestling. Just because, it's people that's either been doing it for 50 years or, an ex-pro wrestler. So it's hard to, replace someone when it comes to commentary or announcing like that. And so then I was like, man, I don't know what to do right now. I can't really wrestle that much. I'm still fragile. I'm going to be fragile for the next 2 years with my ACL. It's a very devastating injury. And I tore that last January, so I'm only just about a year in. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. So I actually started just, goofing off with my friends in the backyard and do like the backyard wrestling and stuff like that. And, growing up, I've always loved the hardcore stuff. I loved, Mick Foley and stuff like that. That was a little past my era, but, I've gone back and watched it and stuff like that. They don't do it as much anymore. But then I started watching like GCW and, the deathmatch stuff like that. And I was like, dang, these guys are idiots. They're crazy, but I like it. And then, me and my friends, I started off with, going through tables in the backyard. It's like, oh, it's not that bad. I like this stuff. And I started jumping off ladders. Like, it's not that bad. And I did my first event, which I was an announcer, but we did a spot to where I interfered with the last match. It was a ladder match. And I was like, okay, well, it's my debut with the show. Let's do something cool. I already know I can, fall off ladders through tables and stuff. Let's bump it up a little notch because I'm in front of my first audience. So this is my first ever live show in front of an audience. I was like, let's put some thumbtacks on the table. So I fell off the top of the ladder, threw thumbtacks to the table, and the crowd went like insane. And like I said, growing up watching that, or even going to live events, good matches stick with me, but what really sticks with me and most fans is when they do that one extreme moment. And so when I did that, looking back at the footage, everyone's filming and stuff like that. And so just knowing that I could create those hardcore moments for fans made me feel awesome. So I was like, I like this stuff. Let's do the hardcore stuff. Let's go that route because I like it. it's not for everyone. Death matches aren't for everyone, but the people that like death matches love death matches. And so, I'm part of that crowd. And I don't mind it. So then I was like, F it, dude, let's do a death match. So now bumping into December, I fought Tank. He's a deathmatch legend. He's been in CZW, GCW, all the hardcore wrestling stuff like that. And it was for the first ever Ultraviolent Championship. It was a new title introduced just for strictly hardcore wrestling. And, I was upcoming with it. And so they wanted me to do it. And it was my first ever death match. So I've done the thumbtacks and the table and stuff, but this is the first time I'm ever doing like light tubes and stuff like that. We did it. It went very well. And I beat Tank for it. Well, I got a little help, but I still beat him. But it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And the storyline was I'm the youngest wrestler to ever do a death match. So I'm only 18 years old, and I was the youngest wrestler to ever do a death match. And so it's cool. I could already make history by doing that, and let alone one of the youngest world champions of all time. So it was awesome. It was very, history in the making, and I'm just glad I could be a part of it. But that's where I'm at. So, it started off as want to do a commentary and stuff like that, and then doing normal wrestling, and then finding out I really like the deathmatch wrestling. So that's where I'm at. I love the hardcore stuff. In the current DWA Ultraviolent Championship. And I think the next death match I have June will be June. I have a match next week, but it's just a normal matchup. But next matchup will be in June. So I love the hardcore stuff for sure.
Well, hey, Chip, look at you, mate. You were starting behind the table, then through the table, and now you're standing on top of the table with the title. You've
right.
done it all.
Right. Yep.
Let's go back to the Nightmare Factory. We've had many people who've been on with the Nightmare Factory: Kid Bandit, Alan Angels, Brooke Havoc, and they've all talked about how much they benefited from the factory. For yourself, Chip, learning under QT and Cody Rhodes, is there a particular aspect of they helped you with your training?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing hearing it from a wrestling coach versus a wrestling coach that's been in the WWE, has been to the top and back, especially with where Cody's at right now. If I say I'm trained by Cody, it's like you're automatically booked, so it's like it has those big advantages for sure. And Glacier, Mr. Ray, he is one of the most humble men I've ever met and has some of the most awesome stories. He didn't do as much in-ring training with me, but I learned more with his stories he's told. I learned more verbally than I ever did, in the ring. And I think that's what's going to stick more than, learning in-ring training. Is just to hear those stories. And, like I said, people that have been to the top and back, hearing what really goes on when you're at the very top. And, it's definitely a big chase for sure. But, I'm just blessed to even, know Cody Rhodes and, have his personal contact info already, especially where he's at right now. It's awesome. So I love the factory. It was a humbling experience. It was my first time even stepping into a ring. So, it all started with a Nightmare Factory. So, everything I'm up to right now was because of the factory for sure.
No, of course, absolutely. I mean, the factory's done absolutely well for our previous guests and for you as well. We can see, with the factory as well. Do you feel like it's probably one of the best places to learn wrestling, under Cody, a legend, and Glacier and everyone else? I feel like it's maybe the best place for someone to learn?
For sure. And I haven't really looked into other schools just because that one was local. But I mean, from what I've heard and, people in my camp have even traveled across the country just to do this camp. So, I mean, it just shows how big of a thing. I think, I label it as the Harvard of wrestling schools. So it's definitely up there for sure. And like I said, where Cody's at right now, I mean, besides Seth Rollins's group, you don't see any that big of names have their own facility right now.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Well done for Cody for that. And he's done a great thing, training the next generation of talent.
For sure.
Obviously, Chip, you mentioned commentary as well and wanting to do that initially. Who for you is easily the best commentating voice in wrestling that you look up to and be like, that is the voice of wrestling to me?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I love Jim Ross, but he was out of my time a little bit. But now I see him in AEW. Everyone's gonna say Jim Ross. But was it Mauro Ronaldo or something like that?
From NXT, yes.
Yeah, dude. When he was on SmackDown for a bit. he was my favorite commentator, especially in this newer generation. I wish he had done a little bit more with WWE, but I loved his voice. He was very into it. Yeah, he's definitely my favorite commentator for sure. I think he's doing like UFC and stuff like that now.
Oh, definitely as well. Would he be someone you would, if you had to pick a a dream co-host, if you were commentating a match, would that be him, or is there anyone else?
I think so. Yeah, I think his intensity is there compared to other commentary teams.
No, definitely. And now moving on to obviously your in-ring career, going into death matches and hardcore style. What was it that mainly attracted you to that? Was it just the the personality within it, like you're so personal in those kind of matches, or was it just the whole violent aspect to it?
Like I said, I think it's just like the big pops from the crowd. Like I hear, you get a bigger pop when you do something like that versus like a good finish, in my opinion. You just, as a crowd, as a fan of watching wrestling and as doing it in front of fans, that's where you hear the biggest pops. Like when we did light tubes for the first time, 75% of that crowd has never even seen a light tube. And if you see a light tube live, it's a different thing than when you see it on TV. Even for myself, I like popped in my head when it happened, just because of like, oh my God, it's surreal. It's crazy feeling. But I think it's just that aspect of doing it for the fans, really, that's where it all goes back to. Like the fact that I can create those memories, and those big moments for the crowd, it makes it all worth it. Yes, it hurts. It sucks. I bleed a lot, but it's all worth it. I'm good now. Got a few scars every now and then, but it's worth it. I love it. I love that I can create those big pops and those big moments for the crowd. I mean, just thinking back, like any Mick Foley moment you can think of, like, and all it was a little like hardcore moment. It's not like he was like an insane great wrestler. It's just Mick Foley because he did those insane moments. Same with like even Darby Allin. Darby Allin's a great wrestler for sure, but he does those insane moments and those those crazy jumps. Same with Jeff Hardy. So it's like that's the kind of people I look up to and mold myself out of.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And we've had former deathmatch wrestler Mickey Knuckles on. She talked about the art of a death match and some of the interesting items she's had involved in matches. For you, Chip, what do you feel like is one of the weirdest items to be involved in a death match, above light tubes, above barbed wire, and above all the other crazy shit you've seen?
I don't. That's one thing I've already done it. I have a few scars. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it was a gusset plate. I mean, some people do them. Do you know what that is? I'm sure you've seen those in death matches.
Yeah, they're fucking weird.
Yeah, and not every deathmatch person does it, but I mean, it's getting more normalized. Same with like the skewers and stuff like that. I don't know if I would do that again. It's not worth the pop because not many people know what it even is. And oh God, I think it's the worst pain I've ever had to do. I mean, it's literally just like nails this thick, like a plate of nails just going right into you. So that's one thing that I think it's a little too much for me. And now I'm starting to see in GCW and some guy from Japan, he's like doing this, it's like one like metal skewer and he's like sticking it through their mouths. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, it's a true talent for that one.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's going like in and then like out the other side. It's like, oh my God, dude. He did it to like Joey Janela like not too long ago. And then Janela just like took it out. I was like, oh my God, that's insane. That's too much for me. I'm not a big stabbing person. I like just quick and easy, just something really fast. I can't deal with like the whole stabbing and stuff like that. It's just that's a little too much and over my board. I might do skewers one day, but right now, I think light tubes is enough. That's enough glass for me and enough pain and cuts.
nice.
But yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff lately. And it's just getting more and more, advanced and just, I guess, just different stuff you see like each generation, people just go above and beyond each like year, it seems like. So it's crazy what some people do. Yeah, but I definitely have some respect for it. If you can do that already, that takes a lot of pain tolerance for sure.
Oh, absolutely as well. I mean, fucking hell, it's an acquired taste, but you'll get there at the end of the day. That's some notches on your record. But we've had Eric Schultz on, who's a Chicago wrestler who's done death matches, and he talked about the art of a death match. Things that go into it, having the right crowd, the right personalities, and even the right weapons as well. For you, Chip, the art of a death match, what do you feel like are some of the key aspects for it?
Definitely light tubes. I saw some death match. They advertised it as a death match, and I watched it. It was actually with Tank and Cruel, and they didn't even use light tubes. It was more like a street fight. It was like stop signs and stuff like that. But they advertised it as a death match. I feel like if you're gonna have a death match, they did do gusset plates, so I will give them that. But I think light tubes is like the key. It's like having a TLC match and not having chairs. I think death matches, you got to have some sort of glass or something. So definitely light tubes. But at the same time, I can't even do a death match every month because you have to find certain facilities that even allow that. So that's the first thing. That's the first step, is just finding a place that'll even allow glass like that. Actually, when I fought Tank for this title, we had to tell him it was just a prop for fake fluorescent tubes, but it was real fluorescent tubes, just because they weren't going to allow that. So that's very strict, but at the same time, you just got to have light tubes, in my opinion, if you want to label it as a death match. If not, I think it's just more of like a street fight, or just just a hardcore match.
It's the certification of those light tubes. You're watching a death match 100%.
For sure, because it's a death match is literally just taking a hardcore match or street fight and just turning it up the notch a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whether that's an insane amount of barbed wire or light tubes, there's some sort of glass. I mean, some people even do fire even. So yeah, it's just, you got to have that one like big hardcore weapon, in my opinion. You can't just have like a chair and a bat or something like that.
No, of course, absolutely. And then obviously, speaking of death matches, and obviously in Tank, you would win that title at DWA Deck the Jaws. Going into that match, obviously with Tank, because a death match icon. Do you feel like that was like your certification of, yeah, I am the American Psycho. I can hang with these legends and win titles?
For sure. And that was really me questioning myself about that. It was my own test to see if I could stick around with it. Because like I said, I've done the hard, like the tables and thumbtacks and stuff, but I was like, this is going to be my test to see if I can really hang with these guys. And what better way to do it than Tank? I got my ass kicked for sure, but I hung with him, and he even told me at the end, he was like, that was your first death match, dude? Like, it seems like you've been doing these for like 2 years. Like, that was like, props to you. So just hearing that by itself, made me feel very welcome to it. To the, the death match, where I was like, hey kid, like, you did it. Even just seeing me like at my age, people are, I have like adults coming up to me like, how old are you? Like 23 or something. I was like, no, I'm 18. And they're like, oh my God. Like, just the fact that you're a kid pretty much, and you're doing this is like insane. So I think it's just, once I get that mutual respect from the actual deathmatch legends and the crowd, I think that's, when I told myself like, okay, I think I can really do this.
Of course, obviously you mentioned, being 18. We've had a former guest of the show, Billy Starks.
Yep.
I know someone you're familiar with, Nick Wayne. Do you feel like, as a teenager, do you feel like there's maybe like a sort of extra pressure, or like to step up and show that you can hang with people who've been doing this in their 20s and 30s and even 40s?
Yeah, I mean, and especially because, Nick Wayne's a great example. I know Nick Wayne, he's an awesome guy. A lot of it is our size as well, not just the age, because we aren't fully developed men yet. We look smaller. We still have, a teenager body. So, I mean, Nick Wayne's a great example, but he's also a great example of like how you can really do it. Nick Wayne's, I think he's the youngest wrestler I know of that's, made it that big for sure. But that definitely does take a little pressure. But it also helps my character a little bit, because I play a heel, and I play this, cocky kid that, gets away with everything. It kind of reminds me of like an authority Seth Rollins figure. Ooh. But the kid aspect makes me get hated even more, because, people are assholes. They don't want to see the kid rise up sometimes. They don't want to see this pretty boy get whatever he wants kind of deal. We just did a segment, or I just got signed with a new group, MEW. And they made me, I thought I was just going to be, like doing some backstage stuff or introducing my character or something, but they made me the owner's son, because they saw that, like I had that in me, and we did a, segment where, you know, I announced that I was the new owner of MEW. Well, technically my daddy is, but I got daddy's money, stuff like that. So just because I'm a kid and that aspect of that, it produced so many more like hate for me, which is good. And, you know, the guy, the actual owner in the back, he's like, yeah, I've never seen someone get booed that much in MEW yet. So like you did your job. So I think the kid aspect, I guess it depends where you want to take your character, because if you want to be a good guy, I think it's good for both aspects. If you want to be a good guy, you have that underdog, you know, like this kid can do it, you know, like Nick Wayne. Or you have like a guy like me that's like just this kid that's just like getting, you know, getting everything he wants and, you know, getting to the top so fast. So it makes you want to hate him even more. Because, you know, people feel like they haven't earned, like I haven't earned my spot. So I was hoping that doing the death match would hopefully a little bit turn that, you know, the boos into like, oh, he's kind of earned his spot a little bit, or on that mutual respect, which it did. So I got, you know, I was booed so much during that first segment, but right after I did the death match, I had like kids lining up wanting my autograph. So it's pretty cool that you can take it both ways for sure.
Absolutely not too shabby, my friend, as well. Not only yourself, you know, I kind of get vibes from you, maybe even Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, and even Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Do you kind of look at those characters and be like, yeah, I can take bits of them and implement it into myself? Is that kind of
for sure? For sure. And you know, that's funny you say that. Joker and American Psycho are my two favorite movies. Or the new Joker with Joaquin. Yeah, a little bit of that, and that's a way I want to turn that a little bit too, because at the American Psycho, I like the his nonchalantness a little bit. You know, he doesn't care. He's, you know, just a male Sigma. So, you know, I kind of want to take that route a little bit too, but also I almost want to have the American Psycho gimmick as like a gimmick, like a demon Finn Balor. So it's like I only turn into this like insane like guy that, you know, needs to do what he's got to do when it comes to like the death matches and stuff like that. But in the end, I'm just like Chip Skyler, you know, just this cocky, I guess. I don't even know where I would put it, because initially I wanted to be like a newscaster. Like I wanted to be like a newscaster, like announcer, like I said. But like have a character, you know, because not too many commentary anymore. Besides like Jesse Ventura back in the day had like these heel characters, like a good character. So like that's why I thought I would take it at first, you know, just be like a media guy. But then in the wrestling world, I was like, I gotta take that up a little notch, or else I'm just like a Miz, you know, like a typical Miz or something like that. So I thought doing the American Psycho gimmick would fit well. I haven't seen anyone really do it. And you know, I love wearing suits and stuff, but like I said, I didn't want to look like an off-brand Miz. So, you know, I wanted to take it up a little bit and have like some sort of, you know, gimmick or some sort of, I guess, like pizzazz on it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, exactly, my friend. Exactly. You know, you mentioned suits as well. And you know, Trev, if someone gave you an unlimited budget and said, "Go and create your favorite suit, any piece you want, any material, any colors, what you going with?"
Man, that's tough, because I've been actually wanting to look into, you know, making different suits and stuff like that. But then I thought about Seth Rollins too. You know, I was like, well, I don't want to look like that. So it's like wrestling's hard to build your character, because there's so much, especially now, there's so much that has already been done. You know, so it's like you don't want to look like a knockoff of anyone. So, you know, that's what I'm figuring out now. I'm actually trying to figure out real like gear and stuff, because right now I'm just, you know, wrestling in almost like a suit already, or, you know, just plain whatever, which is fine. You know, I mean, you look at guys like John Moxley and stuff, they're on top of the world and he's wrestling in jeans. You know, I want to build something that looks like a suit-ish, but, you know, has a little bit of character into it, and my character into it. But yeah, when it comes to that, I don't know. And it's actually something I liked before I even saw Seth Rollins do it. It's when he had like the drip suit, when it was like, you know, like paint splatters and like the drippy goopy. I wanted to do something like that before I even saw that. And I saw that, I was like, dang, man. Like now I feel like I'm gonna knock off that. But yeah, I would love to do like paint splatters or something cool. I mean, now that I'm hardcore, I could even do I was thinking maybe do like a whole white suit, but with just like blood splatters everywhere, you know? I don't know if that would look too much, but it also brings that Patrick Bateman-ish look to it, you know, with like the blood everywhere. So I feel like, you know, I think if I do something like that, it would be, you know, maybe with blood or some sort of splatter or something all over the suit.
That'd be really cool. So maybe even have some like barbed wire tangling up the arms or something.
Right.
Like that. Really
For sure.
Yeah, look, hey, maybe you can just ship you some tartan from over Scotland. Use that into your suits or something like that. Real finesse.
Right. So
But
I have a question for you, actually. How's the wrestling in Scotland?
oh, it's good as ever, my friend. We've got ICW here now off the WWE network. They're
Sweet.
pretty extreme themselves. We just had the Square Go program. Riho just jumped off the goddamn balcony fighting Molly Spartan. So, I mean, if you've seen that on the internet, we're kind of nuts ourselves. But we also got TNT as well, which is a very extreme promotion. They've actually done some crossovers with GCW. I need to know, Chip, would you be interested in crossing over the pond and fighting over in TNT?
Yeah, so yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm trying to look into more of the deathmatch stuff, and my dream, everyone's dream, is to make it to WWE, but that's not my dream. My dream is to make it to GCW because I feel like that's like the king of deathmatch right there. So, if I could wrestle one match on GCW, I'd be happy to retire for sure. So, and that's the route I'm at right now. I'm trying to find that connection, because it's all about connection. So I'm trying to find that. That's what I'm searching for right now, is that finding that connection with GCW. They're coming in Atlanta next month, and I talked to Action Mike Jackson the other day at a show, and he was because he had wrestled on GCW. I was like, how can I get in there? And he was like, honestly, dude, just sneak in the back and act like you're part of the crew, and try and meet the boss. I was like, all right, well, this is gonna go one way, or it's gonna go one bad way or the good way. Either I get kicked out and I look like this guy that just is begging for a promotion or something, or I meet the guy, explain who I am, explain what I'm doing right now, because I feel like that brings something new to the table, is my age. I feel like with a deathmatch world, doing it as my age, and with the character I got going, I feel like it will bring something new to the table, because not too many deathmatch guys have a good character development or necessarily a good storyline. So I feel like I bring something new to the table for sure. And I'm proud to say that. So with that being said, I want to find that connection for GCW or something, and just go towards my dreams for sure, because I don't want to be doing death matches in the backyard and stuff like that. It's not even worth that sometimes.
You want to make it mean something and have that connection,
right? If I'm gonna do it, if I'm gonna spill that much blood, I got to do it in front of the right crowd for sure.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, GCW, even with their world title, they do have an ultraviolet title as well.
Exactly, and that's yeah. And we actually got some recognition off of that for this title. So we kind of because I was like, I don't want to call it the hardcore title, because it feels like there's so many hardcore titles.
Yeah.
So and I saw the ultraviolet. I was like, that's that's the only ultraviolet I've done or I've seen on television. So why don't we do that? So yeah, I mean, that's the next step for sure. The next big step for sure is going to trying to find that connection to GCW, because that would be my absolute dream for sure.
Well, I need to know then, if you get GCW and they're told, hey, Chip, have any match you want, death match, whatever, who you facing and in what match?
Man, that's tough. I would love to do Moxley, just because he's done a few, and he still will every now and then. He was GCW champion for a while, but yeah, John Moxley, not just because of the death matches, but because I grew up watching him as Dean Ambrose and stuff like that too. So yeah, that'd be a dream come true for sure. I think dream match opponent though would be Seth Rollins in general. He's my favorite wrestler. I love what he's doing with like the Joker gimmick, just because I like that stuff. But if he were to do hardcore stuff, man, I would love to go toe to toe with Seth for sure.
Of course, man. Hey, the future is bright for you, Chip. I can see you soar in the skies, my friend.
Thank you, man.
Now, I must say, obviously, DWA have their Mardi Gras Brawl coming up, and it's you with Team Nightmare coming up. I just want to know what your thoughts are going into that show.
So no matches are announced. We do have a match, but it's not announced yet. So I can't say what it is, but let me say the whole faction will be there. The whole faction will be in action. So Team Nightmare, all the guys that helped me win, and myself will be there to hopefully bring some chaos. But no death matches, unfortunately, which I'm kind of bummed out. I feel like, well, I just won the title. Let's go and defend it. But hey, that's more champion time for me. So I'm okay with that at the same time.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Team Nightmare is built already and stacked, but there's maybe a slot missing. You like to say yourself as Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and to the Joker, there's always the Harley Quinn. For you, Chip, is there someone you feel could be your Harley Quinn to the Team Nightmare?
Yeah, I'm actually dating a girl right now. Her name's Alyssa, and I've introduced her into the wrestling world and stuff like that, and she's interested. So it's in the works. It's in the works for sure.
Well, it looks like Team Nightmare is going to expand and take over the deathmatch scene. Ooh.
Might.
Hey, no worries, mate. Well, Chip, I very much appreciate you coming on the show and telling us your story. But, if our fans like what you're seeing, any matches coming up or places you're going to be in the next couple of months?
We have March 11th. MEW will be doing some. I think March 17th and 18th will be doing some. It might be 18th and 19th. Definitely the 18th. So we got that. June, we just announced this. Actually, it was June 3rd. Will be Splash Bash with DWA. We will have a death match. That'll be my next death match. So that'll be the next big one for sure. And it's going to be by a pool. So we're going to have a wrestling ring by a pool. So it's going to be an interesting atmosphere for sure. So I'm super excited for that.
Well, folks, definitely get yourselves over for that. We'll have Chip's Instagram down below. You can follow him and keep up to date with everything he's got. Chip, thanks very much for being on the show, man. A champion. Always pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
All our viewers, thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the Soul Sessions. I've been your host, Soul. Stay happy, folks. Stay happy.